Hey everybody, this is John for Pioneer Nexus MTG, coming at you with a quick replay of some Neoform Combo. This is a deck that I promised to do some gameplay on, and I've been sitting on some matches that I've played but not had a chance to record them, so I'll be doing that quickly in this video. As far as what this deck does, you are trying to use self-mill cards, things like Otherworldly Gaze, Contingency Plan, Tygon Scheming to put a bunch of cards in your graveyard. You're ideally looking for a copy of one of your Delve creatures, Hooting Mandrills, or Tasigur that you can use cards in your graveyard as ways to alternatively cast the generic mana costs in them. Then you're trying to find a copy of Neoform or Eldritch Evolution. Turn one of your 6-drop Fatty Boom Booms into a 7-drop Fatty Boom Boom, kill your opponent. The two main things are Atraxa Grand Unifier. This is kind of the grindy card. Allows you to refill your hand, also regains life, has Vigilance and Death Touch, as well as Lifelink, which allows you to get into racing situations against aggressive decks. And then Tyrannus Rex. This is a card that forces your opponent to have unique forms of interaction, or else they die in 2 or 3 hits. It has Trample, Ward 4, and Haste, as well as Toxic 4. So it's an 8/8 Trampler that requires your opponent to have at least 5, probably 6 mana to kill, unless they have a sweeper. And for every time it deals damage to an opponent, they take 4 poison counters. So regardless of how much life they gain, say a deck like Angels or something, this card will kill them in 3 hits. And that's pretty much the deck. You have some interaction in the form of Thoughtseize and Stubborn Denial, sideboard cards, Leyline of Sanctity for discard matchups, Mystical Dispute when you're fighting over counterspells, decks like Spirits and Blue-Eye Control, Fatal Push and Abrupt Decay when you need either removal spells or anti-hate cards, things like Rest in Peace and such. And then Pithing Needle just seems to kind of become the surgical extraction of the Pioneer format. It allows you to answer a myriad of things while having it in kind of a nice, neat package, dealing with things like Karn the Great Creator, Odowaru, Boseiju, etc. So, that said, let's get into a couple of matches that I did with this deck. Before we get started on the gameplay, all credit goes to Bryant Cook on the epicstorm.com for his version of the deck. This is the one we're playing. Really hasn't been any 5-0s that I've seen, but this was an interesting build, and I believe he managed to 4-1 with it. So we are on the play in whatever matchup we're up against. Our opening hand, we see Thoughtseize, Neoform, Contingency Plans. So we have half the combo. We're looking for a Delve threat to pair with our Neoform, but overall this hand's pretty good. Got functional mana, got an interaction against our opponent, so seems pretty good overall. Our opponent, we Thoughtseize, see Vizier and Leer. We are up against Lotus Field combo, take Vizier here. Pass turn, opponent goes with Temple of Mystery. They're obviously looking for a way to find Lotus Field. We go Contingency Plans and see we have Atraxa and Tygon Scheming. We go ahead and put a bunch of cards in the graveyard, potentially leaving Atraxa in our deck. Probably the Tygon Scheming on top would be my guess. Opponent gets Sylvan Scrying to find their land. We do Tygon Scheming. We still haven't found a Delve Fatty. So we put everything in the graveyard and pass. Our opponent continues to do the thing. We Otherworldly into Tasigur here. We play Tasigur, holding up Stubborn Denial, potentially interact with our opponent during their turn, although they're most likely just going to copy Lotus Field this turn, which means they were unlikely to do anything. Then we get to Neoform and kind of start pressuring their life total. We do that. Hooting Mandrills, we attack with Tyrannus Rex. So Atraxa is attractive, but we want to get the game over as quickly as possible. So Tyrannus Rex does a better job of that because of the haste plus the toxic. So we give our opponent 1 turn window with which they have to win through a negate. And I don't think they are capable of that. So they cast Pour Over the Pages. We go ahead and Stubborn Denial this. Now, this could have been a bait spell. They could have had something like Hidden Strings, but they don't, so they can see. And easy peasy, lemon squeezy, so to speak. As far as sideboarding, now Lotus Field Combo is a deck that we should rather easily dispatch. Decided to go a little bit of interaction with them. Brought in 2 copies of Mystical Dispute, boarded out a Tasker and an Eldritch Evolution, as well as an Atraxa. This matchup is more about raw speed than interaction. It's kind of two decks goldfishing with what they do. You know, you don't want to be completely cold to cards like Dramoka or something, so as well as the Kama. So you gotta kind of leave in some amount of your Thoughtseize stuff. The first hand just had no way to put cards in the graveyard. This version has Tagan, Scheming, Hooting Mandrills. We can put back the Atraxa, as well as potentially use Bostasia here. Although that was kind of an idiotic move. I should have put Atraxa back in our deck. But our opponent goes Arboreal Geyser, no lands. Not quite sure what they were hoping to find there, but... And they do nothing, and they concede the game. So, we would have likely been able to find a Eldritch Evolution or Neoform rather quickly, as we have these to dig deeper into our deck. We have the Hooting Mandrills already lined up, and our opponent's stumbling on lands, so easy 2-0 win over Lotus Field. You know, these are the kind of decks that we should beat up on. They don't really interact with what we're doing. They're actually probably about the same speed as we are in terms of actually winning the game. You know, we win probably on turn 5 most of the time, with Tyrannus Rex coming down potentially on turn 3. And then, you know, overall, their deck is very mana requirement, so this hand was a little bit of a sketchy keep on their part, but a win is a win. We're back for the only other match that I really found interesting in the set of games that I played with this deck. So we will be on the draw, unfortunately. Our hand has 3 Neoforms, no way to dig, so pretty easy mulligan. This hand has Thoughtseize, way to dig, Tasker, Hooting Mandrills, so probably an easy keep. Put back Hootie, back land, I guess. Our opponent leads on Hall of Storm Giants. We lead on Thoughtseize and get Spell Pierced. So either Phoenix or Creativity at this point, most likely. Could be Blue-White Control, but Blue-White doesn't usually play. Blue-White does not usually play Spell Pierce, so I mean, they play Censor, they play Jawari, Disruption, but this is usually something you see more out of Creativity and Phoenix, so presuming that's what we're up against at this point, and the red land confirms it, they go ahead and do that. We cast Otherworldly Gaze, put a bunch of stuff in the graveyard, as we're still looking for our combo pieces. Opponent taps out for pieces of the puzzle, basically confirming that they're Phoenix. We flash this back, put the land on top, then we can Otherworldly Gaze, put put Neoform on top. So next turn we're going to get to Neoform doing the thing if they tap out here, which they tap out for other pieces of the puzzle. Put a couple Phoenixes in the graveyard. We do the Tasker thing. We do Neoform. Getting a Tyrannus Rex going here. It's a 9/9, so they're going to be kind of hard pressed to deal with it. They go ahead and Galvanic Iteration, double Treasure Cruise, get back to Phoenixes. So this is potentially setting up for killing the Tyrannus Rex. We go ahead and attack. They double block to avoid dying pretty much. They go to 2. We play a Tagan Scheming, they play a Fire Impulse, not realizing that it has word 4, and they're just dead. So we put a Stubborn Denial on top. Not that it particularly matters here, but now they have to deal with the Tyrannus Rex. They put a thing in the ice. If they could somehow flip that, they would be able to deal with this. So the thing is, the one thing that's a bit tricky in this matchup, other than that, we really don't care what they're doing. It's kind of a goldfish to, can we goldfish them before they get to the Phoenix's Galvanic Iteration turns plan. Other than that, Thing in the Ice is certainly a concern, but we get game number 1. Alright, for game number 2, boarded out the Thoughtseizes, boarded in a couple copies of the Mystical Disputes, and a couple copies of Abrupt Decay. Now, this may have been incorrect. Maybe I should have prioritized Thing in the Ice more here and brought in at least the 3rd copy of Abrupt Decay, as Thing in the Ice can certainly disrupt our plans. We've got Neoform, got Atraxa, we've got Abrupt Decay and Contingency Plans, so reasonable hand overall, with the exception of the Atraxa, what we don't really want, but okay. Opponent leads on tapped. We lead on tap lane ourselves. Opponent goes Thing in the Ice. We go Contingency Plans. Putting a bunch of stuff in the graveyard. Still looking for our Delve creature. We just pass here. See if our opponent wants to spend a bunch of mana doing nothing. Plus we have another Worldly Gaze to flash back. So we flash back. Nope, we Abrupt Decay them. We go ahead and cast a Tasigur. We have a Neoform. Get a Tyrannix Rex rolling here. Hit them for 4. They cast another Thing in the Ice. We hit them once again. They don't get to do anything except we are risking them flipping our Thing in the Ice. Anawaru would be nice. However, if the opponent can flip everything this turn, once again, they're just playing spells to be able to flip their Thing in the Ice, plus bring back their Phoenix, and they return Tyrannix Rex to our hand. And now they're going to get to hit us for 10, and then 10 again before we could do anything reasonable. So, because we know we left a Stubborn Denial on top, we're just not going to have the time to recover, unfortunately. So, on to game number 3. Alright, back for game number 3. We adjusted our sideboarding just a tiny bit. Brought in 2 copies of Fatal Push in addition to the 2 Abrupt Decays. Once again, the only card we truly care about is Thing in the Ice, other than, you know, they're kind of go over the top plane in the mid game. So this hand has Otherworldly Gaze Contingency Plan. We have 2 Delve threats. The only thing we're missing is our Neoform or Eldritch Evolution. Opponent leads on nothing. We go ahead and cast Otherworldly Gaze. Seeing a bunch of Contingency Plans and Otherworldly Gazes. Probably put all 3 of those in the graveyard. Go ahead and cast Contingency Plan. We find our Eldritch Evolution, leaving that on top. Opponent shocks in, plays a Ledger Shredder. Bing, 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 bing. Playing Tasigur. Playing Hootie Mandrills. Daring our opponent to deal with 2 creatures here. Thing in the Ice. We cast Eldritch Evolution. Opponent Lightning Axes. We grab Atraxa, because it's a bit of a grindier plan. We will grab Fatal Push to kill their Thing in the Ice. Another Ledger Shredder. Opponent casts Opt, triggering their Ledger Shredders. Go ahead and swing with Atraxa. Opponent decides not to block, takes the 7 and likes it. We do the thing. Find a Neoform, which is kind of what we needed. Choose not to play out the Hooting Mandrills until we can actually combo. They play a Phoenix out. Put up a relatively good fight here. We play Hootie. We play Neoform. They get to, unfortunately, loot. We get the Tyrannix Rex. Swing in here. Opponent gang blocks the Tyrannix Rex. Goes to 2. We get a Hootie on top, or put a Hootie in the graveyard. Get a Tasigur. Opponent chump blocks with Phoenix. Go ahead and get Tasigur here, and our opponent scoops. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Activating Tasigur. It's possible we'll get Tyrannix Rex back, and then if our opponent can't deal with both of these threats, then they're just dead. So kind of showed a little bit of the resiliency that Atraxa brings to the table. I think Tyrannix Rex is probably actually slightly better in a lot of situations, especially in racing situations. It's a lot harder to kill, etc. But Atraxa does help you recoup the card advantage or card disadvantage that you're doing in order to get it into play, and helps you potentially set up to either get another Atraxa or a Tyrannix Rex. So deck's very powerful and explosive. Certainly is vulnerable to graveyard hate and interaction. So, you know, it's kind of a one-trick pony. It does what it does and doesn't do much else. But that said, still putting an Atraxa into play on turn 3 or turn, I guess theoretically, so I think turn 3 is the fastest you can put an Atraxa into play. Turn 2 might be possible if you have Otherworldly Gaze, but I still think turn 3 is the fastest you can put either an Atraxa or a Tyrannix Rex into play. So if you put Tyrannix Rex into play on turn 3, swing 9, and they've shocked, then you can kill them on turn 4. But generally this deck's killing speed is turn 5. So deck's powerful, it has interaction, a little bit of a glass cannon. Might be the deck for you, but I did promise some gameplay with this deck, and I delivered. So hopefully you enjoy, and don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and see you for our next deck guide and gameplay videos.